Recess instead of class. Okay, everybody, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is now 6:01. I would like to welcome all of you that are here tonight, those of you that are participating in the Board of Education meeting in person, and those that are watching the meeting via streaming on YouTube. We would ask that anyone addressing the board use the microphone at the podium and to identify yourselves for the record. As a reminder, the link to the meeting is on the district webpage under the Board of Education. The streaming will run through the end of the meeting. And in the event that there is a disruption of the stream, I will pause the meeting until it is reestablished. Dr. Kettler is not able to join us tonight, so Chief Student Service Officer, Mrs. Chavez, Susan Chavez, will be filling in for him tonight. And of course, all the board is present and ready to go. Mrs. Chavez, would you please announce the meeting for us?
This meeting has been announced in accordance with the Open Meetings Resolution and is a legally constituted meeting of the Los Angeles Schools Board of Education.
Thank you. That leads us to the Pledge of Allegiance. Mrs. Ana Avavita, if you'll come forward. There you are. Good evening. If you could stand here and face the audience, I'll let Mrs. Chavez read a bio. Go ahead, Ms. Chavez.
Raymond Gobaldon is proud to have Ana Yuridia Avithia lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening. Ana is 12 years old and is a sixth grade student at RGE. She lives with her parents, Annabelle and Sasad Senior, and has three brothers, Brian, Sasad, and Liam. When she is not hanging out with friends, she loves to draw or play soccer. Ana hopes to be able to go out of state for college, to become an artist or a teacher, to follow in her favorite teacher's footsteps. She states that her favorite teacher was her third grade teacher, the late Miss Dolores Martinez, who taught her to love math, and she hopes to be able to teach others to love it as well. Ana has consistently demonstrated exceptional leadership skills throughout her time at RGE. She is a natural leader who possesses the ability to motivate and inspire others. Ana is actively involved in helping other teachers at RGE, showcasing her commitment to fostering a sense of community and involvement among peers. Ana currently serves as a teacher helper in art. She assists pre-K and kindergarten students in completing art tasks. She is an incredible role model for the younger students. One of Ana's most commendable traits is her unwavering positivity. In challenging situations, Ana maintains a constructive and optimistic outlook, uplifting those around her. This positive attitude is infectious, creating an environment conducive to collaboration, growth, and success. We are proud to have Ana represent Raymond Gobaldon Elementary this evening. We are excited about her future because we know that she'll be very successful in all that she does.
Thank you.
Ana.
You can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you, Ana. Well, actually, she's gonna get a.
Okay, there you go, give her a bag.
Couple more down here, still waiting to meet you.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Ana. Okay, so that's going to take us to item number 4 of the agenda, which is approval of agenda. Ms. Chavez, are there any changes or deletions to the agenda?
I would ask that item number 13, update regarding progress of 100-day plan, be removed from the agenda.
Thank you. That would be a presentation that is necessary to be completed by Dr. Kettler, Superintendent Kettler. So there's been a request to remove item number 13. Gentlemen, anything else? Okay, not hearing anything. I'm going to call for the vote on approval of agenda. Well, actually, I need a motion. Who's going to give me the motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the agenda with the removal of item 13.
I got a motion by Mr. Vickers and a second by Mr. Bennett to approve the motion minus item number 13 of the agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Mr. Hedon?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Vickers?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
And I too vote yes, agenda has been approved. As announced and posted in accordance with the New Mexico Open Meetings Act under item 5, the Las Lunas Board of Education Open Meetings Resolution, a quorum of the Las Lunas School Board of Education participated in a closed executive session prior to the start of this evening's board meeting. The closed executive session was held on December 19th at 4 p.m. for discussion regarding limited personnel issues, specifically superintendent's evaluation pursuant to 1015-1H2 of the New Mexico Opens Meeting Act, and a quorum was in attendance. I affirm that no other topics were discussed, nor any other action was taken while we were in closed session. That brings us to item number 7, which is, well, no, item number 6. This would be any action is needed required regarding the closed session. Gentlemen, was there going to be any action from our closed session?
Madam President, if I could,
Go ahead, Mr. Bennett.
based on the high evaluation of Dr. Kettler, I move that we increase his annual salary by $10,000 to a total of $180,000.
So there is a motion on the floor to grant a benefit to include a monetary value of $10,000 to Dr. Kettler, bringing his total salary to $180,000. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Hedon. Any discussion, gentlemen?
Ms. Garcia,
Go ahead, sir.
so with the high level of completion that Dr. Kettler set forward in his 100-day plan, and I hope that you will all pay attention to that when he presents it at the next board meeting, it was obvious that he has exceeded our expectations to a level that warrants something like this. And I know it sounds a little bit high after being here for such a short time, but the effort that he has put in and the results that he has and the community involvement and everything that he's done to meet those expectations is remarkable, to say the very least. And I, for one, support this 100%. And I really feel that Dr. Kettler is going to take us where we need to be in the next level. So that's my comment, Ms. Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Any other board members? Go ahead, Mr.
Madam
Hedon.
President,
Go ahead.
I second this motion and I have no problem doing that. In my tenure here as a board member, I've sat in your seat there before. And I've had a superintendent come within 90 days, come ask for 20,000. This guy, he just didn't meet expectations. He exceeded them and he did extra things that I couldn't believe. I mean, all of us together, nobody talked about it, but we all got to see it. And that's the only way I think that we could recognize this person. So I thank him for that also.
Thank you. Anybody? I would just like to add in favor of this motion, because I think that as Mr. Hedon has said, he's exceeded our expectations. There was a lot on his plate and he has stepped up and done it all and then some. I'm really impressed with his communication level. He's got a long way to go. This is only a little bump to say thank you from the board members that are leaving, and of course, hopefully from the whole board, if it turns out that way. But he has exemplified what we'd hoped for when we were looking for a superintendent. So if there's no other discussion, I would like to call for the vote. Mr. Hedon,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Vickers,
Yes.
Mr. Bennett,
Yes.
and I too vote yes. We will be increasing Dr. Kettler's salary up to 180,000. Motion passes. That brings us to item number 7 on the agenda. This is for a presentation and approval of a resolution for a special election, a 3 mil levy. Mr. Art Melendres is in the audience. I think I saw him. Good evening, sir. He is from Modro Sperling. And Eric Carrington, is he with you or are you alone tonight? All right, come on up, sir. If you can identify yourself at the podium. If you would like Ms. Chavez and Mrs. Tracek to then introduce the gentleman that I just did. Go ahead, Ms. Susan. Ms. Chavez.
Yes, I would also like to turn this over to Ms. Tracek so she can explain a little bit about 3 mil. And then Mr. Mike Good will also be providing additional information about the 3 mil.
Thank you. Okay, so Sandy, if you want to go first, and Mr. Melendres will wait just a minute, sir. Thank you.
Madam President, members of the board. So without this 3 mil, it does end up averaging about 3 million per year. And most of that money, normally we go through that portion each year and it is spent in our technology department. For all technology, for the, not just the department, excuse me, but for our for the technology that we use throughout the district. And over time, I mean, technology has just been growing and growing and growing in our district. Technology is becoming so much more of everyday life that the cost of technology is increasing. We have so much more technology than we had in previous years. So it's very sad and hurtful to see that that could be something that we won't have an avenue for, this $3 million money that we're able to spend on technology. The only other option is going to be, at this point, it looks like it will have to come out of our operational fund. So some of these things are things that we cannot do without. Just even presenting this board meeting, there's all kinds of technology that we're using today, right now. We have to keep up our infrastructure, and I know Mike will be able to explain a lot more about that stuff, but so many things that we do every day that people don't even realize. There's also, unfortunately, 3 full-time positions that are paid out of this fund. It is a fund that's able to pay a small bit of salaries. We actually have 3 full-time and 1 part-time shared position that is paid out of this fund. So if we continue to do that, that's another expense that operational will have to pick up. It's not like we can just stop spending these things. There might be some choices that we will make that without this money that we will maybe choose that we will discontinue doing, but for the most part, it is going to be something that needs to be done, or continue to have those employees will now have to all come out of our operational budget. So not only is operational budget, not only is our entire budget losing some of the ESSER funds that we've had in the past. This is the last year for the ESSER 3. And ESSER 3 has been very generous to technology and hopes that, we can use some of the ESSER money while we have it to help purchase some of the technology that will no longer be here next year. And so all of that. So this is going to be a tremendous burden on the operational budget. So the next time that we come to you for our operational budget, it's going to be probably including some of these salaries, some of this equipment, maybe some of our bonds for some larger projects that bond could pay for could help, but the majority of everything's going to come out of our operational budget. So there'll be a large difference. Not is the operational just taking over the items that are in, if this would not pass again, be taking these technology costs, but also the ESSER funds have been paying for things. So operational will also at the same time needing to be taken over some of the things that have been currently been paid out of ESSER funds. So it's unfortunate that our budget as a district is going to be hurt by this quite a bit. So,
Thank you, Ms. Tracek. Mr. Good, did you want to come up and give us a little spill as to the operational side of the IT budget? Thank you, sir. Identify yourself for the record. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Ms. Chavez. My name is Michael Good. I am the Director of IT. And I just wanted to start by making a quick comment that my belief is that the reason that the 3 mil didn't pass, we basically lost by about 200 votes. And there was over 7,000 votes overall. So it was 4% difference. My basic belief is the reason that it didn't pass is that most people didn't know what they were voting for or against. And it was just a question of whether or not to allow more funds for the school. And so our efforts right now are really focused on explaining what 3 mil is. I think we can do a better job of identifying it on the ballot, which is why we're requesting the special election. But also we can do a better job of explaining exactly what 3 mil pays for. And that's my goal this evening. If you'll give me the first slide. And I hope I learned my lesson from last time. I had to increase the font size so I could actually see across the room. So let's talk first of all about how 3 mil is used today. And this falls under the heading of network and IT systems, as well as the subscriptions that we pay out of the IT department using 3 mil. We do have a process to where each network, every school site, every, the administration building, district service center, all school infrastructure requires a refresh with cabling and network electronics about once every 15 years. That can go slightly longer than that, but 15 to 20 years, you don't want to go any longer than that. The electronics keep moving forward in terms of to be able to support the growing needs of the network, and it's important that those are refreshed. Also, 3mil is a primary source of funding for student, staff iPads and MacBooks. And the mobile devices that we have in the district is about 10,000. If you think about the student population, that's 8,300, kind of goes up and down a little bit. And then, 1,000 plus staff, and you throw in a few more in there, and we're around the 10,000 device neighborhood. And it's a 5-year life cycle for iPads, as well as 1,800 MacBooks are purchased for high schools every 2 years. We're on an off year this time, but in order to keep the devices flowing, so to speak, we do purchasing and refreshing consistently. We also pay for staff PCs. We pay for audio and visual components, everything from projectors to interactive flat panels. And so we've talked about a flat panel purchase that we're fortunate enough to have funded out of ESSERS that's going to be happening in the near future. But we will not be completely getting rid of projectors and other AV systems. So that burden typically is placed upon 3mil. Some additional items over on the right. There's a district server infrastructure that we maintain not only at central office, at our core hub here, which manages all the various services that we offer. And we've got 40 to 50 servers within the district if you look at the overall entirety of the district. It also maintains our Wi-Fi infrastructure. And those protocols are continually moving forward. And so you constantly have to buy new equipment every few years to ensure that you're staying at the cusp of technology to continue to support the growing needs. And especially over the last decade, we've seen skyrocketing needs. And just as Sandy Tracek was saying, that lots and lots of systems are coming onto the network. And it used to be that technology was kind of not necessarily one of the premier departments in the district. It was kind of like a necessity to have technology around. But these days, I think we're much more front and center in terms of relying upon the systems that we support. Core network components like core routers, core infrastructure servers, wireless controllers, district firewall, all of those are necessary in order to run the district network, and those expenses all come out of 3mil. We also maintain annual warranties for those core components. In the event of a hardware failure, something goes out, we have to be able to get replacements in a timely fashion. Let's talk about some of the subscriptions that we maintain. Online data backup for core servers. Fortunately, we can say that we've never had a major data loss, but that's because of the systems that we maintain to back up our data. We also maintain antivirus, anti-spam, and as you've seen recently, more cybersecurity platforms for decreasing phishing and cyber threats, as well as increasing staff awareness of those threats. I'm sure this is an unknown acronym for most, but JAMF is the mobile device management system for the more or less 10,000 or so Apple devices that we have. That's a major expenditure for the licensing for those devices, and we just couldn't survive without a tool like that. Also, the IIQ ticketing system, this is the help desk for tracking tech work orders, device assets, and fees tracking. That is used by our technicians on a daily basis. That's how we organize our work. That's how we prioritize our work, et cetera. And to continue, there's funding support for PowerSchool to maintain student and staff databases. So it's a portion of that overall PowerSchool bill that comes out of 3 mil. Other aspects of that come from other funding sources, but 3 mil does support it. We're also maintaining a cloud-based, certificate-based Wi-Fi device authentication in order to improve our security. You guys, unfortunately, may have been some of the unlucky recipients of some glitches that we've had lately, but we're making that transition as we speak in real time. We also support we pay for the Destiny Library application, which is a hosted application online. We also pay for E-rate consultants when we do these projects I was talking about previously at the school sites. Oftentimes these are hundreds of thousands of dollar projects. And we get up to 80% or so of most of those projects funded through the E-rate program. And we pay less than $15,000 a year for consultants to basically guide us through that whole process. So it's almost a no-brainer to have these consultants on board to help us manage receiving effectively millions of dollars over several years' time. We also maintain student and staff account provisioning at a cost, cloud-based print services. And so that's, I think, pretty good high-level coverage of what it is that we're doing with 3 mil now. And so I just wanted to switch real briefly to what are the realistic side effects or impacts of not having 3 mil. And so on the left here, you've got some bullets that basically explain what's already happened. So as soon as I had learned about this, we decided to stop the T-Mobile student hotspot program. And that's actually terminated as of today. Because the idea essentially, I'll go down to the bottom one, but any cutbacks on non-critical IT equipment, non-critical IT services. We had hoped to continue the ECF funding, which is the government program after COVID, to provide services for the community. And I had sought that funding. We received it. We've been into this for 3 years or so. And then we thought, well, at least for 1 more year, we'll support that as a district. We'll continue with that. But considering that 3 mil was not approved, I immediately took action to ensure that we're cutting costs. So that was one of the first things to go. Also, we had a whole suite of network upgrades that were planned this year. And although E-rate would pay for the majority of that, our portion would be about 20% of that. So if you're looking at, let's say, I don't know, $500,000, that's still $100,000 out of the district pocket. So we're postponing that. So the majority of what we were requesting, we just put on hold. And I've already covered the last one. What are the long-term potential risks? It could result in longer device life cycles for staff and for students. So for example, PCs, iPads, et cetera, about 5 years is what we typically look at in terms of life cycle. The way to offset costs would be, we can make some of these devices last longer, 7 years, 8 years, or in some cases, even more. There could be potential increases for one-to-one device fees annually to students and families. So with iPads, every student is supposed to pay $15 fee at the beginning of the year, which helps to cover damages, expenses related to it, the case, all the stuff that goes into purchasing the iPads. And then there's a $45 fee for the MacBooks with the same goal in mind. So anyway, that certainly could impact people down the line. there could be potential increases for student device repair fees. Just a quick anecdote on that. When some of the newer MacBooks had come out, I believe that there's a defect with some of the new screens because we've seen escalating rates of damage with those screens. And the vendor that we were working with was charging us $400 a pop every single time that we had to send in a MacBook to be repaired, $400 for a screen repair. That was under the original rules getting passed along to students. I've even had certain people who've had 2 MacBooks have the same issue where they didn't know exactly what happened to the MacBook. And they were charged 2 $400 fees within a time span of about 2 or 3 weeks. And that was not acceptable. And so we have changed those. We changed the way that we operate. First of all, we found a cheaper vendor. So we're getting those repaired for about $220 as opposed to $400. But we also capped what families are responsible for with that particular repair at $100. So if you have that, if you're unfortunate enough to have something like that happen, you leave your keys and you close it, or something happens, somebody steps in your backpack, whatever it might be, the most you're going to be responsible for is $100. So the point is that if we don't have $3 million to support this, that could certainly impact our ability to help out students and families in that fashion. And then finally, as I've kind of been leading up to this, an inability to maintain current and robust network, Wi-Fi devices, and systems technologies. Again, it's just a matter of the constant need to make sure that everything is staying up to date and robust and working order. And if that's not happening, we're extending life cycles, then unfortunately, there will be issues that we would have to deal with. So with that, thank you for your time. That's all I have. Unless there are questions.
Let me ask any board members any questions of Mr. Good.
Do you want them all at once, or do you want us to wait till the end, or?
So it's up to you. If you have a specific question or if you just stay there.
I'll just.
Back? Okay.
Sure.
All right. So with that understanding and that information, Mr. Melendres, what do you have for us?
What I have, and you have in your packets, is a resolution calling for a special election. And this special election is under the special election law for local governments. The prior election was the November election. This time, when you have a special election, there are a couple things. One, it's all mail ballot. So the county clerk will be mailing to every registered voter a ballot in an envelope. The registered voter fills it out, self-addressed stamped envelope, it'll be returned to the county clerk. So it's not like going to the voting location. This is mail ballot. The second thing is that the date of this election is picked in consultation with the superintendent and the staff, and I know some of you, but the superintendent chose August 13th, which is several months off. But quite candidly, in my discussion with him, he said, I don't believe we did a sufficient job of really explaining to our citizens, the people in the district, what this $3 million is about. And I want more time because I had said you could have this as early as March. He said, no, I want to make sure we've made a maximum effort and time with our citizens. So the third thing I want to point out is that on July 16th, the county clerk closes the registration books. That is when you can go register to vote. If you're already registered, you're fine. If you want to become a registered voter, July 16th is the deadline. And unlike in the regular election where they have walk in the day of the election and you can register, become registered voter and go ahead and vote with the all mail ballot, you cannot do that because they're printing ballots and mailing them out. So I maybe spoke too long, but that is the resolution. There's a second part that is attached to this, which follows, and that is directions to the county clerk as to how to conduct this election in accordance with your decision. And so the county clerk will print a ballot, put it in the ballot, mail it the ballot will be printed and mailed to you, and it will have the ballot question on it. And the ballot question is all in accordance with state law, but it specifically allows, as explained here, the acquisition of technology equipment. And so that is what I have for the resolution and the guidance and direction to the county clerk. And I would turn it back to you. Any questions you have, and then for your consideration, whether you would like to adopt the resolution for a special election.
Thank you, sir. All right, so now board members, questions. Mr. Smith, go ahead.
So the registration to vote on July 16th, that's next July 16th, the vote on August 13th?
The registration books will be closed in July of 2024. And the vote will be on August 13th of 2024.
Okay,
So there's 28 days. The clerk has to close the books 28 days before the election date. So you back up, and that's how you get to July 16. So
Okay.
you have to, anyone who is not registered and wants to, they can go down tomorrow and register. But the deadline is July 16, 2024.
so you would be sending the mail ballots to every registered voter and everybody that registered prior to July 16th?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that brings me to a couple of my other comments, and I know, and this is what I like about Dr. Kettler. He tells it like it is. Maybe we did, maybe we didn't do a good job, and I don't know, and I have some questions, and it may have been covered at a prior time, I don't know, and if it was, I apologize, but I would still like to have an answer for it. And I know that it was brought up by one of our audience members who knows about this stuff. It was third on the ballot for Las Vegas Schools bond elections. And you have people that'll read the first one and then they'll scatter through the second one. By the time they get to the third one, they don't even want to hear about it because they start to think, what is this going to cost me? And what are the benefits for me? Instead of realizing what the benefits for the district and the students are. And you get to that point when you get down on the ballot sheet that happens. And I'm not sure how we advertise this. I know we did a good job in the school districts. I know that we had people going to each individual school. And I know we're doing a presentation here in the boardroom, but these are the people that are probably going to vote for it anyways. So my question would be, is what did we do external to those things? And what are we going to do external to those things to sell it this next time? Like, did we have a workshop? Did we have an online presentation where it's live and you can actually ask questions? Because I agree with whoever said it, that I think it stems from a lack of understanding as to what this money actually does and what the ramifications are if we don't have it.
Right. Madam President, members of the board, at this time, we had gone out to all the school sites to talk to, every time they had a staff meeting, we had gone out there to try to get out to our employees. And that was, we had explained all of everything that was up for election and went over the different types of things that we would do. And, you know, thinking that our staff, we would have enough people if they all went in and voted positively, that we would be able to, it would pass. So we also did some advertisement. I know we plan to try and advertise also, but we had also talked about for the future, maybe some of these clubs that I think Dr. Kettler now is part of the Rotary Club. So we would also get to some of these other clubs to try and get out. I know that Tiffany in construction at the time had gone to Peralta's parent night and had our architects for the building of the school to mention stuff. And when we got out, kind of mentioning some of that stuff during that at the Peralta town meeting, they went for that and they kind of mentioned it. So we did get out some, but I think we are trying to make sure at this point it's just one. So maybe being able to explain exactly what this is. Like now you see kind of the consequences of the things that understanding what exactly we pay for before we kind of mentioned, everything that was up for election, kind of touching on some of the items, but now we can more specifically discuss this because I think, it does sound like, yeah, it's going to cost my taxes some, but truly I believe that the community is overall putting in a little and getting so much more for their students, for the district. There's so many benefits that we're receiving for this. And it's actually really going to hurt. If this doesn't pass, it's very much going to hurt operational, which affects so many of our community who work for us, their salaries and their supplies that they can, supply at schools. I know this budget, we just recently tried to help parents by buying all school supplies and not asking for that. And so that would be, if operational is going to have to take on, that was something I was really hoping we could continue to do. And, that would probably be something that we couldn't. So I do really think that, yes, you might, it's in your property tax costs, but I really think that the benefit for it, because it pays a little bit, it allows us to get into some of these programs that we also share the cost with other entities. And so we're able to do so much more with the money that we have because of this. And it's really going to hurt. It's going to hurt everyone. It will affect everyone and our operational budget. So.
And I agree. And I'm just, the only reason I'm saying this is because I believe, and based on comments that I've heard and everything, our target audience is not the ones that we got to. Our target audience is the voter that's going over there to vote for mayor and then reads this stuff on the ballot and doesn't understand the school funding, doesn't understand the benefits of this. And as I stated earlier, doesn't understand the ramifications of us not having it.
Right.
So I 100% wholeheartedly support the 3 million, and it was not a good day when it didn't pass. So.
Right. And then also, I think sometimes people think that it's going to pass. I'm not worried about it. And so hopefully we can also look at the reality of this. It didn't pass. So yeah. Now it's even just a mail-in ballot where sometimes people think, is it worth getting out and waiting in line to vote? Maybe not, because it's not going to be a problem. It always passes, Hopefully some of that was an issue where someone would have voted yes, but they just didn't get out to do it because they didn't see it as being a problem. That maybe now when they have the mail-in ballot and it's not a problem and they see, we're letting them know so much more in detail of the things that this pays for.
Sure. And just to finish up, I want to stress this as sharply as I can. I have no doubt in my mind that the district did the best job that they could. You guys did a terrific job. I just think that now with so many more voters, those are the people that we need. But you guys do a tremendous job. We desperately need this. And I hope that my hope is that people understand it and will support this.
Mr. Guido?
I just wanted to add a quick point along with that, and that is on the ballot, technology is not even mentioned. So if you actually read the language and not having heard anything from the district, for example, you just wouldn't know. It reads as general improvements for Las Lunas schools. It doesn't relate to technology as it read on the ballot.
Correct. And unfortunately, technology is probably the only word you could use, because if you start throwing routers and bandwidth and everything else, I think you're lost in that. But yeah, I agree with you. It did not specifically say what we were going to do with it. So Thank you. Thank you.
Did you want to speak? Okay, so I know we got some more questions. Mr. Hidon had wanted to chime in. Go
Madam
ahead, sir.
President, members of the board,
Thank you.
and I don't know who can answer this. I have a question for you also, Art, but does anybody have the numbers in that election that failed? We know how many people voted?
I can give you
That's
some,
what we don't.
I can give you some approximate numbers because I watched it pretty closely. It was something like 7,200 overall, and there was about a 200 gap between the yays and nays.
Okay. So we have, how many employees in the district?
Just over
Employees?
1,000.
Over 1,000?
Yeah.
We have actually almost
Okay.
1,800 employees, 1,800 employees.
So this means we really got to get out and campaign this one. We can't rely on just campaigning within our district. We're gonna, you board members that are fresh off an election. I hope you're for it, but, and I think you will be, once you get to see the numbers, you'll see a superintendent that's accountable. And you guys will be able to figure out how to get those 6,200 extra votes that we need. You'll get the numbers. You understand what I'm saying? Art? Yes, sir. When does this resolution have to be ratified by this board to be able to be on the ballot by August?
Well, has to be.
Legally,
Legally, it could be adopted in the spring, March. As
Okay.
late as maybe April 15th at the latest. I will tell you that the reason that I am here tonight is really at the direction of Superintendent Kettler, who said, I want to make sure the board adopts, but that will then put in motion my efforts, and this is back to your question, Board Member Smith, to make an extreme diligent effort to make sure we touch every voter, and every voter really understands what the money will be used for and why it's important. And so if it seems like you're adopting it early, and the superintendent and I discussed that, and we said we have new board members coming, he said, I really want the time. And that's, I don't think he was denigrating the effort of because he was here a few of the days himself, but he's focused.
and the reason I don't know why, I do know I asked that question, but I have total confidence in Dr. Kettler being transparent with the community. That's the kind of guy he is. He's going to throw it out there, and it is what it is. So I think he'll do a good job at promoting this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bennett, go ahead.
Yes, Madam President, I have one question. What's the importance from August versus the November election?
So the November election is called under the now election code, a regular election. So in November will be the presidential and all of the House and representative and local government officials, which is held every November in November of 24, which is the even numbered years. All right. There is another election in November of odd numbered years, which is the election that just passed, November of 2023. And that is really for local elections, if you will. So that's the mayor, the county commissioners, the local elected officials are in the odd numbered year. So now, in between those two Novembers, the legislature gave local governmental entities the ability to hold a special election, but only by mail.
I guess the question I'm really getting at is the tax part of it. I understand the difference in elections, but I wonder,
Yes.
we need to do it now because after this September, the new tax brackets go out, therefore the taxes could
Yes.
change, and then it could be
Yes.
a
We
really hard sell.
haven't dwelt on that. So in the election resolution, it says that the tax will be imposed for tax years, tax years 24 through 29, okay? So the way everyone's taxes work is that in the summer, that will be this 2024, actually, starting in June, maybe even a little earlier, but in June, the Department of Finance and Administration in Santa Fe will work with all the local governments and they say, are you going to have an election? And if you are, have the voters approved to impose your tax? So let's take, I don't want to belabor this, but if the voters had approved the 3 mil election in November, the DFA would say, oh, you had your election in November of 23, the 3 mil passed. What we will now do is put in place through our paperwork, if you will, but it is a direction to the Valencia County Commission to instruct the county assessor and county treasurer to impose the 3 mil levy for every taxpayer. Because it did not pass, and if the voters were to turn this down, there will be no 3 mil tax levy on the tax bill. But if the voters approve in August, there is still time between June and September to go through that process through DFA to the county commission and to impose the tax. And so this is picked at a time which will still allow the 3 mil levy to go into effect on your tax bill. Remember, you get your tax bill in late October or early November, and you have to pay the tax by December, and it's collected in December, May. So that's this is worked out to comply with all of the statutes and to make sure that if the voters approve, that 3 mil will continue to be collected.
Good.
Does that help? I hope.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Vickers.
Okay, so the resolution includes the ballot language.
Yes.
And as Mr. Smith mentioned, or somebody else mentioned that technology doesn't really appear here until, we've had this whole meeting about technology. And the A is providing equipment for furnishing public school buildings. B is leasing property and other real estate things. C is improving public school grounds. D is activity vehicles for transporting students. And then E is starts getting into software updates and things like that. And then the final one starts talking a little bit about technology improvements. But
You're reading 2 mil, I think.
I'm sorry.
You may be reading 2 mil.
This is the thing.
Yeah, so we are stuck with this language.
All right, so let me give you, Madam President, Mr. Vickers, the language that is in this is taken out of the New Mexico statutes. So if you go to the New Mexico statutes, under what we call the School Building Act, that's what this is, it will list exactly the wording, which is A, B, C, D, E, and F. So this is the interesting thing. I've done this a number of years, and I actually have had a citizen file a lawsuit, someone who did not want the tax to be imposed. They filed the lawsuit and said, Judge, the reason I filed this lawsuit is because the school board, when they adopted the resolution, didn't follow the statute 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And therefore, the ballot question is invalid, in my opinion, and I ask you to invalidate the election. The judge said at the time, no. And this is where this last F comes in. It says purchasing and installing educational technology improvements. It doesn't say equipment, it says improvements. And it says that you excludes salary of the employees, but you can include tools, which is another word in the statute, used in the educational process. So this legislature makes interesting law wording. And so my gentle recommendation is that we follow the statute exactly. And it is laid out on page 3 of the resolution, and that we take the burden upon ourselves to say, when you see the word technology improvements, this is what we mean. This is what we mean, sir. I mean, I don't like it myself. I would like to say, very short and simple, shall we buy additional education technology for our students? That's what I would talk in plain English, but sorry, even though lawyers don't often speak in plain English, I would, but that's why we're kind of stuck with this. I mean, if it's just really sticks.
Well, I think that's probably one of the reasons it didn't pass is that they'd already voted yes on the first two, and they're like, well, this is the same thing, I guess. Why do I?
Well, and that is one last thing I'll say. When a certain senator determined that it would be good to go away from the February elections that were always held for school districts and move them to November, it changed the sequence back to your question of, well, when does the tax go into effect? So if you had an election in February, as school districts for 20, 25 years did, it would pass or not, but then it would start the process in Santa Fe. You would have from February through the summer and into your tax bill. And when he changed it to November, he said, we're going to skip a year and you have to jump to this year. And he and I don't always see eye to eye, but he got the votes and he changed the whole election code to be the way it is. So it just puts an additional burden on all of us to do a great job explaining why we need it, how it'll be spent, and assuring the voters that we're doing the right thing by them.
I just wanted to add that when I was saying the word technology was not on the ballot, that is, I believe, because it was abbreviated on the ballot. Was the language of the entire bill printed on the ballot?
That was this.
Okay, I don't believe so. We had reviewed it, and anyway, that was my understanding. I'd read it, had others read it to me, went back and reviewed it, and I don't believe that the entire thing was printed on the ballot, but I could be wrong.
We'll bird, my word. We have to bird dog the county clerk too. She's
I
Candace
just want to make a joke.
Eeg has been working with us closely and is watching this.
Go ahead, Mr.
Okay, well, you know, given all that, I think we need to really do a major job in informing the public what exactly we're paying for, and maybe look at what the 3 mil has paid for previously and say, here's what it's paid for. And we don't have to, we're not going to have these things. And, you know, if we're mailing it to every voter, we'll have that discussion with Dr. Kettler, but I think we ought to mail some kind of a flyer or something to every voter and just lay it all out. This is what it pays for. If we don't get it, we're going to be taking from these other funds, operational funds, and we really need to do a great sales job. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam President, can I add a few things? So I do oversee technology in our district, and I believe that we do need to have our students tell our story better. we didn't have our students tell their stories. So we will be starting with our film festival. It will be released in March. So we've opened that up to all of our students and we're encouraging them to tell their story on how technology has impacted their lives and how they've been able to create with technology. So that will be rolled out. And the winners of the film festival will be showcased at Starlight Movie Theater in March. So we will be building off of all of the entries. Last year, we had over 150 entries, I believe, in the film festival. So our students will be a big part of telling our story. And now that we have a new website, we have a much better avenue to tell our story. So we will be having our students be big participants in telling our story on how technology has impacted, because it's impacting them the most. And we will continue to advertise over Remind. I know our principals did that quite frequently. Thank you, principals. And they also advertised on marquees, and they did talk about it during parent-teacher conferences. So we have that opportunity again in February, and we have our marquees. A lot of schools have new marquees, so we'll be taking advantage of that as well.
Thank you, Ms. Travis. And I would just like to add a couple of things because it did change our whole election cycle, and timing is everything in an election. And as county clerk, they need this information as soon as possible. You could bring them in a special election in March when they're starting the primary. You've just given everybody a big headache. And I agree, Mr. Vickers, that every single voter is going to get one of these. So that's good, because they need to know, but it's also hard because the voters aren't just in school employees. This is going to go to everybody. So it's very, very important that everybody know what we want and what we're going to use the money for. So yes, we definitely, I think, can do a lot more to get that information out. I think, and I could be wrong, it'd be interesting to know, but that T-Mobile hotspot that ends in December is going to affect a lot of families who don't have internet. That's a lot of kids in our district, and they're going to know it come January that now this could be a cut to the district because we don't have this. These are big issues that take a big chunk of money that we've been lucky to have in our 3-mail. An all-mail election saves the district money because we'll be paying for that election. We're paying for a special election.
Yes.
But we're paying for it in a way that's cheaper than having a full election. And we can't be on a general election with these other candidates. So there's a lot to be said. It's unfortunate that we're having to go about it through a special election, but I appreciate the information that says we might be able to get this tax in without losing out on some money, because as of right now, we're going to be losing out on money if we don't make this happen. So this is an extremely important thing that affects the kids in the classroom. And that's what we as board members have to make sure we do, is that our kids in the classroom get what they need. And how it helps the family, how it helps the teachers, how it helps all the other staff is extremely important. But we've become a country and a district that's totally relied on technology and on this equipment, and it's just something we can't go without. It just isn't. So I appreciate that. Thank you. No, go ahead.
So as an outgoing board member, I have a suggestion. You can do item number 1 through 6 statutorily, right? But item number 7, can you add to that description?
Yes, you can, sir.
Okay, then I suggest a picture of a kindergarten class at RGE. Let them vote that down.
I think you can add, but just.
Or you can word the wording.
The wording
explains it,
is
right.
right out of the statute. My only caveat to say you can change is that to the extent there is some citizen who is diametrically opposed to any kind of tax or any kind of support for a school, they can file suit and gum, I'll say layman's words, gum this up. And so I respectfully think we should just follow the statute, the wording, and do our job to make sure everyone understands this is what's going to happen. Your suggestion about a brochure to everyone is valuable.
Right. Any other discussion, or can we move forward? Is there a motion for the approval of an agenda?
Move that we move forward for approval of the resolution for the special election for 3-mail levy.
I have a motion by Mr. Bennett that we approve the resolution.
I'll second that.
I got a second by Mr. Vickers. Any other discussion?
So there was time and I would have liked to have seen it. Wait. The 3-4 weeks, for the new board who's going to be responsible for advertising this. But that being said, I'll wait for the vote.
Madam President,
Yes.
members of the board. Personally, I do want to see this bond pass. But I also, in order for this thing to pass, I agree that the new board needs to take the bull by the horns on this one. And I would like to see I know Dr. Kettler wants this thing out right away, but I would like to see him work with this new board and get a path forward. I'm not against it. I just would like to table it or hold off on it.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Okay, I'm going to call for the vote. Mr. Hidon,
No.
Mr. Vickers,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
You went out of order.
I know, I don't have the paper in front of me. I'm sorry.
We so need this. I'll vote yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
And I too vote yes. Resolution is passed. I'm going to ask for a 5-minute recess because signatures need to be collected right away so that our attorney can move on. So we're going to be in a 5-minute recess at 7:03. I'll call us back as soon as paperwork is signed. Thank you.
So I thought you would explain.
Stay for Kate.
Okay. Where did I lose her?
The cost of the stamps.
I lost Miss Chavez. So as soon as she comes, we'll get started. I'm sorry. I looked around for everybody and I missed her.
It's like took 5 minutes.
Well, she has one more to go.
Huh? We have SROs in here. We have SROs in here. If you want to heckle me. I'm kidding. You know. Only the paper, student council, they don't know. We don't know. So maybe we can.
Sure.
That's what our goal.
It's good. You buy, he pays for it.
You don't have to wait till we're done on face.
Be part of the record? No?
Just information.
I'll wait till further.
Cindy. Don't spray it. Cream, I mean the candy. The candy.
All right, it's 7:09 and I'm going to call the meeting back to order. We are back online. That brings us to number 8 of the agenda, which is public comment. Mrs. Chavez, do we have some public comment?
Yes, we have 2.
Okay. So we have 2 members of the public that would like to participate in tonight's meeting. I'm going to call up Aiden Chavez first. If you'll come forward. I'm going to ask that you give your first and last name, that you use the podium and speak into the microphone, okay? Thank you, sir. Oh, my goodness. And you could pull the microphone down just so we can hear you, and then you can go ahead and start when you're ready. And you got 5 minutes as soon as you start talking.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Aiden Chavez. Good evening. My name is Aiden Chavez. I'm an 8th grader at Valencia Middle School. With me is my brother, Henri Chavez, a 7th grader also from Valencia Middle School. I also have Javi Giron, a 3rd grader from Bosque Farms Elementary, and Lorenzo Giron, a preschooler also from Bosque Farms Elementary. We are here tonight as grandsons of school board member Eloy Giron, and to say how proud we are of him for sitting here and representing Las Unas schools. 4 years ago, the 4 of us stood up here and held the Bible for our grandfather as he was sworn in. During those years, there have been some rough days for him and our family. While he sat on his board, he was faced with some tough decisions. One decision I can remember is the COVID year, when I saw him many days and nights worrying for the family of the students, staff, and community of Las Unas. Thank you for making the decision you did and for keeping us all safe during that time. We also stand here tonight to thank you, DAPA, for all those hours you spent listening to many people's concerns and trying to figure out what would be the best for everybody. Thank you for talking on behalf of athletes and trying to get money for uniforms and the necessary equipment that was needed. Thank you for asking questions that would make a difference for the students in the classroom, and thank you for always having the students' best interests in mind. Thank you for always thank you for your dedication to this district and being the best board member you could be. These past 4 years have been an experience for me and have taught me to always stand up for what you believe in and never let negative things bring you down. Thank you, DAPA. We are proud of you and will always stand behind you. You are the best board member we will ever know.
There's dust in here, huh?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's what you said in writing. I noticed you were reading from something. If you want to hand it to Ms. Wolf, we could put it in the minutes for sure. Make sure we got it all. Thank you. Next, we're going to call up Mr. Talley, Justin Talley, if you'll come forward, sir. And we'll restart the clock for 5 minutes. Good evening.
President Garcia, members of the board, my name is Justin Talley. And thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak tonight. First, I want to start off by thanking you, President Garcia, Mr. Giron, and Mr. Smith for your service on the board. It is I'm sure a very thankless job, as I am about to find out. But I do appreciate your service. We may not have always seen eye to eye on things, but it's been great, and it's wonderful that you've been willing to do that job. So thank you. I wanted to comment tonight, though, about the calendar. Later on, you're going to have the opportunity to adopt perhaps a new calendar. The past 2 years, I have been on the calendar committee, and Dr. Elder, who is not here tonight, she's no longer, I guess, working with us. She did a bang up job of pulling together the committee and giving us parameters to develop the calendar. Those parameters, though, are part of the reason I wanted to address the board this evening. Some of those parameters we have to live by. For example, 1,140 hours of instruction is one of the rules. It's a law that we have to live by. Some of the other parameters, though, we did not have to abide by. For example, 181 days of instruction was something that was set out for us that we that we tried to work within the calendar. There were different people at different times that offered up different options to shorten the number of school days, and it seemed like it fell on deaf ears. There are ways it's not a law to have the 181 days of instruction. In fact, 40% of the state of New Mexico they have a 4-day-a-week schedule and have far fewer days total of instruction. So there are different ways that you could work the calendar and the hours and come up with the 1,140 hours. The reason I bring this up is because it seems like the summers are getting shorter and shorter for students and for parents. If we were able to adjust some of those things, we may have come up with a calendar that, though no one is ever going to agree on a calendar, we could have come up with a calendar that more people would have been happy with, that parents in the community would have been happy with, as well as teachers and administrators. So I would like for you to consider this evening tabling the vote on the new calendar and allow the new board in the next year to take that up and perhaps have another committee, and perhaps a new committee would come up with the exact same calendar, but perhaps with different parameters and rules, they could come up with a better calendar that fits the community's needs, the students' needs, and the teachers' needs. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Talley. That brings us to item number 9 of the agenda, which is approval of consent items. Gentlemen, you all had the consent sheet to look at prior to the meeting. I need a motion to approve consent items.
Garcia,
Go ahead, sir.
make a motion that we approve the entire consent sheet. Second.
Okay, I got a motion by Mr. Smith, and Mr. Bennett was quick on that second, Mr. Hedon, so I'll take his second. Any discussion on any of the consent? Okay, not hearing any. Mr. Hedon, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Vickers?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
And I too vote yes. All consent items have been approved. Okay, that takes us now to the superintendent report, item number 11 of the agenda. I'll turn this over to Mrs. Chavez. Go ahead, Ms. Chavez.
Thank you, Madam President. We will first start with our student representative report from our student from Century High School. Allow me to introduce this month's student representative from Century High School, Juliet Ariane Baca, who is supported tonight by her grandmother, Laura Tafoya, and her mother, Miranda Baca. Juliet started with Los Lunas Schools in the 5th grade at Los Lunas Elementary, and in 6th grade moved to Sundance Elementary. For middle school, she went to Los Lunas Middle School, and for high school, she attended Los Lunas High School before coming to Century High School for her junior and senior years. Since coming to CHS, Juliet has recovered all her credits and is on track to graduate this spring with the class of 2024. After high school, Juliet plans to attend the University of New Mexico to study psychology and education. She says she has been inspired to become a teacher from the influence of the teachers at Century High School. She plans to take a dual credit course at UNMVC this spring to get started on her degree. Juliet is a true Centurion who is a leader in our New Mexico out of school time, as well as the Dungeons and Dragons Club at Century High School. We know that Juliet will be a success of whatever she chooses to do and hope to see her back in Los Lunas schools as a teacher in the future. And over to Ms. Juliet.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the Los Lunas Schools Board of Education, and Ms. Chavez. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to be able to tell you more about Century High School and to share some new things going on at our school. Century High School has really helped me recover mentally and also recover my credits. This school really cares about their students, learning how they're and how they're teaching. I think I have learned a lot of life skills that I would not have learned at other schools. We've had a lot of stuff going on at Century this semester. We had Picture Day on October 27th and Makeup Pictures on December 4th. We had Horizons testing from December 4th through December 8th. We had our academic award celebration and quite a lot of students got awards, including me. We also had a field trip to Meow Wolf for good attendance and good grades on December 7th. We had our first craft fair on December 9th, and there were about 60 booths. We started a new electives class that consisted of basic sewing and embroidery, nutrition and fitness, automotive fundamentals, and fundamentals of art. In planning for next semester, we had our cap and gown graduation regalia on December 15th. We also had a dual credit meeting with Mr. Mero and UNMVC. We talked about college classes and taking dual credit next semester. Thank you for allowing me to speak to you about Century High School.
Thank you. And if you could stay there, Ms. Baca, we might have some questions for you. I'm not sure. Any board members have questions?
No questions, just a couple of comments. First of all, I think your career path is amazing and it's very much needed. So I want to commend you for choosing that career path. And secondly, congratulations on your academic award that you didn't even look up and take the notice that you deserve. You just breezed right through it. And if there's one thing I do know, you take the accolades that you earned. So congratulations on that. And I just want to say that in your presentation, you talked about what you're doing at Century High School and what your future is going to look like. And that encapsulates what Century High School is. And it's a place where people fit and they do what they have to do. They take the same classes that everybody else takes. You get the same diploma that everybody else takes, but it's something that fits you. And it sounds like you're doing extremely well there. You have a great future planned, and I wish you the best of luck. And as a student in this school district, I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, I want to congratulate you also on that. And I do hope and wish you great success on what you want to go for, and hope you do come back and work for the district. It'd be an honor to have you.
Thank you.
Mr. Vickers, anything?
I just want to say, it takes a lot of gumption and courage to go and catch up your credits and go for your diploma. And a lot of people would have quit and dropped out. And I congratulate you for not doing that. And it's a lesson learned that a lot of people don't learn as they're growing up. So good job.
Thank you.
And Mr. Hidor?
Ma'am, I love your career path. Great. It's refreshing to hear that. The awards, thumbs up. But you know what though? Those guys right there. Thank them. You guys got to be proud. You guys did good.
Thank you, guys.
You guys did good.
That is awesome. Yes, same thing. And I think more importantly than we hope you come back, I think because so much of your family is from here, you will be back. And I really would like to see you apply some of that grace that you got in your school to other students in the future. So I just want to say thank you as well. And good luck to you, young lady, and your graduation.
Thank you.
All right. Go ahead, Ms. Chavez.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. And now we're moving for our next item. We will have a presentation presented by our principal from Raymond Gobolden Elementary, Ms. Catherine Campbell. Ms. Campbell?
Madam President, members of Los Lunas School Board of Education, Ms. Chavez, thank you for the opportunity to speak about Raymond Gobolden. I'm here with my assistant principal, Ms. Pamela Gallagher, who will be helping me today. Before we get started, though, I would like to acknowledge the staff of RGE who are here this evening for all of the work that they do every day to make RGE the way it is, the way RGE roars. So if you are here, if you'll please stand up, be acknowledged. We used to fill this place up, but since live stream, we've kind of gotten away from that. We will go through our slides. On our first assumption, every student deserves access to a robust, rigorous, and complete curriculum at their grade level. We are using learning targets with the 4 components of the winning recipe: who, learning verb, what, and how. We are working within grade levels for our lesson plan collaborations, which is scheduled in their master schedule, and participating in professional learning communities. Our next assumption, every student's capable of engaging with grade level standards. Oh, that's not me.
Our second assumption, every student is capable of engaging with grade level standards and rigorous content and deserves world-class instruction and materials to support them. In order to ensure this happens at RGE, Ms. Campbell and I have worked closely together to support our teachers with consistent walkthroughs, observation, and face-to-face feedback. Part of this practice is to ensure that our district-provided ELA curriculum Amplify and our math curriculum and Visions are being taught 75% of the time. This process also includes checking that grade level standards are posted, reviewed, and discussed with students by means of learning targets in order to promote purposeful learning. This practice is done across all our grade levels and content areas. Our next assumption, every student deserves to use technology as a tool for learning and a tool to express their learning in creative ways. RGE's Learning and Innovation Lab, or as we call it, our mini lab, is filled with technology that complements learning from grade pre-K and to 6th grade. This resource is used by our teachers as they develop challenging lessons for all of our students. When needed, the teachers are afforded training and support from district digital learning coaches, RGE's site EdTech, and our 2 certified Apple coaches.
Our next slide, every student deserves to have the opportunity to learn in multiple languages, just as our global peers. Technology is utilized for multiple languages. One of our tools is the Google Translator that is on the iPads. Very helpful. Time Kettle translation earbuds are helpful in our meetings and communication with parents, staff, and students because it does real-time translation. And the translation feature on Remind to get our messages out to our families. It is our data slide. We did want to provide to you some comparison data since we are in December, comparing our beginning of year data to our middle of year data. However, this is preliminary pending completion of our middle of year testing. However, as you can see on our slides from our IMESA scores in reading and math, we have shown growth. Our students are learning and growing. Our teachers are doing a great job.
Every student deserves to connect the relevance of learning as they explore their future career opportunities. Last year, our students all completed initial interest inventories on Beable. And this year, they reconfigured their likes and dislikes, therefore allowing teachers to be able to assign independent lessons based on interest and Lexile scores. RGE is looking forward to hosting a career night in January of 2024. Every student deserves a classroom experience that acknowledges their integrated cognitive, social, and emotional development. RGE's social emotional learning team has been led this year by our school counselor, Veronica Montero. The team's focus this year has been to teach RGE to use the common social emotional language. This has been done through refocus sheets, counselor referrals, and the school counselor teaching social emotional lessons via Nearpod going into the classrooms. We celebrate our students with shout outs, giving out fidgets, and recognizing our students of the month. Staff is celebrated with teacher shout outs, recognizing certified and classified employees of the month and monthly themed potlucks.
Every employee deserves to be supported in staying current in the most effective practices in their field, implementing new initiatives and perfecting their ability to improve student learning. Our teachers have taken advantage of professional development offered through our district, participating in communities of practice on our All Learner Days, collaborating with other schools in their grade levels, and the support of learning coaches, district coaches, and technology coaches. We are very grateful to have a learning coach on our site at RGE this year. It has been very helpful. Our family engagement, we are happy that we have a wonderful community and we are proud of the turnout at our parent-teacher conferences. And we are excited that we are able to bring back community events such as our Fall Festival and Turkey Bingo. And this year we did return our winter celebration / Luminaria tour. We had a great turnout. Our gym was full. It's a little anxiety ridden because there were so many people in one place, but it turned out beautifully and our classroom performances were wonderful.
Safety and security at RGE is facilitated by our school resource officer, Ross Deanda. The following are a few of our safety highlights. RAVE training, all staff has been trained and the panic button app has been installed on everyone's cell phone. Stop It training, we are in the beginning stages, but all 5th and 6th graders have participated in this training. Our school safety team meets monthly to address stakeholders' concerns and holds debriefs concluding each of our drills. Rocket Live virtual trainings featuring the Rocket Dog have been held 11 times at RGE by our school resource officer and school counselor. The Los Lunas High School media team recorded one of our trainings and sent it to the National Association of School Resource Officers, who will be sending it out to various schools. This concludes our presentation, and at this time, we'd like to welcome any questions and our comments.
Thank you. All right, I'll start on this end. Mr. Smith.
Went out of order last time.
Said you were gonna-
First of all, I appreciate the fact that you guys came in here all bubbly and smiley, and it warms my heart to see people sell their school the way that you guys just did. And I've had some wonderful times at RGE, Catherine, with all of the presentations that you have and the ceremonies that you have, and RGE holds a special place. And you guys do a terrific job. It was an amazing presentation, and I wish you the best of luck in continuing. So thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to thank you. It was a great presentation and you guys do a wonderful job and RGI is a special place. That's my first place in employment. So yeah, it's a long time ago. So that's all the difference. Thank you guys so much for everything you do and hopefully we can fix some roofs.
Yes. Thank you.
What's the population of RGE?
So right now we're running around 379 students.
Great job. You guys are doing a good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Ms. Campbell,
Yes, sir.
always pleasant to see. Oh, you're always welcoming. I love your presentation. Keep up the good work. When I'd go visit your schools, I would look forward to it because you would always meet us with that smile and warmth. And I can only imagine what you do to those students. So keep it up.
Thank you, sir.
That's awesome. That's cool. Well, I know it was your first employment. It was my first school. I started kindergarten there. And I won't say how old I was. I don't know. I don't know if the roof is still there then, but all I know is that I really appreciate your presentation. And like you said, you're just your personality. It's just awesome to see you every time that you come and thank you for that. Keep up the good work. I'm really excited about that bilingual technology. And I know that a lot of the district buildings are using it now. And I think it's a difference maker for parents and kids that are with the teacher struggling to communicate. So I good luck and I wish you the best moving forward.
Thank you.
Good job.
And I gotta go to catechism,
Catechism.
kindergarten. I did go to kindergarten there. I wasn't there when Bruce built the building, but 50 years after.
Thank you. I'll turn it back over to you, Ms. Chavez.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell, Ms. Collier. Thank you so much. And I also like to thank the Raymond Gabaldon staff for being here and all of our Los Lunas School staff. It's the eve before the last day of the semester. And I know that we're frantically moving to that finish line. So thank you all for being here. I would like to pass the item number C back over to our president to talk about the update on the Aquatic Center.
Thank you, Mrs. Chavez. So the Village of Los Lunas had invited myself and Dr. Kettler, who was also there, to meet with them as stakeholders in the community about their wanting to build an aquatic center in Los Lunas. As you're all very much probably aware, the school district was unable to sustain a pool in our district. So Los Lunas done a survey several years ago, 2 years, I think. And that was the number one priority of what the community wanted. You know, they want a quality of life. They want a place to take their kids. They want to be able to enjoy an environment in our community. All these businesses and jobs and schools and traffic, we know, kids need and families need a place to go. So I think it's a really good outline of a plan of things that they're looking at. If you haven't already looked at it on their webpage, please do so. They need as much input from the families and the kids and the parents in this community about, number one, what do they want? How big does this thing have to be or not? And how much are we willing to pay for it, right? So the schools are a stakeholder. We have a swim team. We have swim classes. We have transportation right now where they're practicing in Belen and they travel to swim meets because we don't have our own location. So the schools has to be a partner in this. What our role is in that partnership is yet to be decided. The meeting was informative only. There was no decisions. There was no contracts. There was nothing signed in blood or ink that says this is what Los Lunas schools are going to do. But as a board and as this moves forward, they're going to probably do a presentation to this district in March or April. And again, I just ask that the parents and the kids, and if you have any input or if you want to participate, we want to know what you think, because we as a district need to know how much we want to participate. We don't have a lot. We just lost a mill levy and I made sure that they knew that. Our capital budget is very tight. So, you know, there's not a lot we can promise, but the more information we can get on this, the better. And it was a very informative meeting. So if you haven't already seen it online, go online and look at it. As I said, they'll be in front of this board and giving a presentation probably in the spring with numbers and something that they can maybe come forward and request from us as a district. So that's all that happened. But since Dr. Kettler isn't here, that's the update that I'll share. I'll turn it back over to you, Mrs. Chavez.
All right. Thank you, Madam President. So at this time, we'd like to have a presentation for our outgoing board members, Ms. Tina Garcia, Mr. Brian Smith, and Mr. Eloy Hiron. We would like to thank you for your dedication and service to Los Lunas schools. As a daughter of a former board member of this district, I know it is not an easy position. And so thank you for your time. I know it takes a lot of time from your families, and we value that time that you spent giving to our community and to our district. So at this time, we'll be honoring you. And Ms. Swift, if you can get the presentation of the awards.
So thank you. And we have cake and we're going to do a little recess right after we talk a little bit and get our presentation. But in the meantime, I think a couple of board members wanted to say something. Is this a good time, Mr. Smith? Would you like to?
There's always a good
Mr. Well, can we start the timer? Just kidding.
want to.
Just kidding. Go ahead.
Ms. Santiago, if you could leave the room for about So I'll try to get through this. To say
Oh,
this,
really? Please leave.
to say this board meeting is bittersweet is a gross understatement. This was literally one of the most important things I've ever done in my life. And again, I'll try to be brief in my comments. The 8 years have been both a blessing and an adventure. And the blessing was the privilege to work with some of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life. And that's all of you that work for the Los Lunas school districts. I was in awe every time I was in the room with you. The work you do, and living with an educator as long as I have, I know what you do and I appreciate what you do. And I am so thankful for everything that you've done for our kids. I know that a lot of you didn't know me when I became on the school board, and a lot of you became my friends. Some of you became my enemies. Doesn't matter. That's part of the adventurous part. But I want to thank each and every one of you and praise you for the commitment that you had. I'm going to miss school presentations. I'm going to miss the student presentations. I'm going to miss visiting the schools, and I'm going to miss the high school students that come up here and tell us about what happens at each and every one of their schools. I will be watching from time to time, but I want to wish every single employee of the Los Lunas School District, no matter what your position is, the very best of luck. And I hope you succeed in every single one of your endeavors, because what you're working for and the results and the fruits of your labor are so very, very important to all of us. It was also an adventure because I actually got to sit out a year, a levy that was imposed on me unjustly by the public education department. That being said, it was also a blessing because it was also a teaching point to my kids and my grandkids, and I have my grandson here today. And I'll try to talk to you. Sometimes you get portrayed in a negative light. And it's very important that you understand that sometimes it happens. But when you're wronged, that's when you step up and you be strong and you fight and you fight and you have a will to succeed, because eventually the truth will come out. And I want you to know that your grandfather is so very proud of you. And integrity is a flower that doesn't grow in everybody's garden, but you make sure it thrives in yours. And I'm speaking to not only you, but all of my grandchildren. I want to thank Mr. Hidon, shocking, but I do, for encouraging me to continue to fight. This is a battle that we've went through together. You're a great support group because we know exactly what we're going through, each and every one of us. And if there's, people always say that we don't always agree on everything. That is the case with me and you. But if there's one thing we do agree on, it's that this job and these students and this staff were that important for us to come back here and to sit in these seats. I want to talk briefly to the new school board members coming in. I wrote it down, so I want to start off by saying congratulations, and I could not be happier with the results. I am 100% confident in your abilities, and I admire the fact that you came in here with no hidden agenda. And I know you're going to do great things. Monica's not here, but I'm speaking to her as well. Great things for this district, and you're going to support the entire staff and not just a few. To Dr. Kettler, who's not here, but at least I hope he's listening to the board meeting from his house. I'm so excited for the future of this district. And in the 8 years that I've sat on the board, I have not had one person sit in that chair in the superintendent's office that has shown the desire, the focus, the effort, and the ability to place the children of this district the highest on the pedestal. And I'm 100% confident that he is going to take this district in the right direction. To the new board and to the new superintendent, I'm asking you to please fight to maintain local control of our district. No one knows better what's best for the kids in this community than the school board and the superintendent and the staff in this district. Those are the ones who should be making the decisions as to what Las Lunas Schools does moving forward. It's been discussed as recently as yesterday that they're going to come and tell us how we should do our school district. I'm a firm believer that if it's not working now, doing it more often or for longer periods of time is not going to fix anything. Make no mistake, if the public education department had a magic pill to fix the educational woes in the state of New Mexico, and we're not the best state, so we have some woes, but they need to be fixed. But if they had a magic pill to fix that, they should have prescribed it a long time ago. You guys are the ones that's going to take this district where it needs to be. I'm 100% confident with that. The people that are going to be sitting up here for the board meetings from now on, you are going to be so very proud of them, and so am I. To Miss Santiago, I want to thank you for your guidance and help. As of this day, I was rightfully immediately reinstated to the board. You showed up and have been here almost every single day. So I'm assuming that now, since I won't be sitting in this chair, you can take some well-deserved time off. Don't know that to be true, but I'm assuming that. Finally, to my family and friends that have stood by me, I'm blessed to have you by my side when some cast me aside. It is because of your love and support that I have continued to proudly hold my head high. It was always my desire since the day I decided to run the first term to feel like I am leaving this district in a better place than I found it. And I believe wholeheartedly that is the case. I would like to thank everyone that went out and voted for me for both elections, and I apologize for the year I wasn't there for you. I truly hope that I served you well. To my kids, it's my last board meeting. You can relax now. Thank you for always being there. I love you. And finally, to my rock. The one who has never wavered by my side for 43 years. It's been rough at times. But knowing you were there helped ease the burden. Thank you for always believing in me. Thank you for always supporting me. And thank you for always being there when I needed you the most. I love you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Anything not right. As I sit here tonight, I'm filled with a mixture of emotions. It is with a heavy heart that I depart from my position as a school board member from the Los Lunas Public Schools. The journey we embarked upon us together was one fueled by a burning desire to do what was right for our students, parents, staff, and community. We fought valiantly and unwavering in our determination to make a difference in the education system. However, as we all know, the path of change is often riddled with obstacles and challenges beyond our control. Throughout my time on the board, I've had the privilege of working alongside passionate individuals who share a common goal to provide the best possible education for our students. Right now, I'd like to thank those individuals. Brian, thank you. You showed me how to grow as a man, and even now that I'm old, you and I have had some battles, serious battles. But at the end of the day, it was for the students in Los Lunas Schools. Thank you. Another individual I'd like to thank. Please stand up, Frank Botero. You showed me how to be a good board member. You had the guidance, you had the wisdom. I really thank you for that. And I'll never forget that. Los Lunas lost out on a good board member. And you can always hold your head high, Frank. I thank you. I will always be grateful to both of you guys for your passion. Our battles were not without merit. They were waged with integrity and a fervent belief in the power of education to shape our students' minds. We tirelessly champion the cause of quality education, often navigating treacherous waters, where even the most well-intentioned actions were met with resistance. It is only right to express my gratitude to the students, parents, staff, and community who stood by me throughout these tumultuous times. Your unwavering support and dedication, I'm looking at you, Pam, served as a beacon of light during the darkest of moments. Together, we weather storms of uncertainty and frustration, united by the belief that our efforts were not in vain. Yet as I bid farewell to this chapter of my life, I can't help but reflect on the battles that will remain unfinished, the changes left unrealized. We fought for transparency, accountability, and a curriculum that truly caters to the needs of our students. We challenged the status quo. Boy, did we do that. And questioned decisions and spending that seemed counterproductive. And while we did manage to achieve some victories, it often felt like we were swimming against a current of bureaucracy that showed no signs of relenting. Let us not forget the high-paid administration that in theory exists to steer our educational ship towards success. It is only reasonable to expect more from those who bear the weight of such responsibility. As advocates for our students and their future, we took it upon ourselves to remind them of their duty to lead with vision and purpose. Our efforts, though met with resistance, were never intended to be a personal affront, but rather a call for them to rise to the occasion. In parting, let us remember that change is a marathon, not a sprint. As I step away from this role, I do so with a sense of resignation, knowing that there's only so much one can do within the confines of a system that is resistant to change. I leave tonight with my head held high, knowing that our battles were fought for a noble cause, even if the outcomes were not always what we hoped. Yet remembering why we are here, for the students of Los Lunas School District. To the students, parents, staff, and community who remain steadfast in their commitment to bettering the educational landscape, I urge you to carry on the fight. Our efforts, though, have been marred by frustration and roadblocks, have planted the seeds of change. I see that. It may take time for those seeds to sprout, but the potential for transformation is undeniable. To the newly elected board members, I encourage you to have robust meetings, create dialogue, ask questions. In closing, current staff and past staff has stood before us during public comment, some humbling themselves. Others have quoted Mother Teresa. And even some have even prayed for us. Tonight, I will leave you with a definition from Webster's dictionary, which should sum it all up. Accountability. Accountability is an obligation or willingness to accept responsibility or to account for one's actions. Dr. Kettler, he's not with us tonight, but I'm going to look at you in the eye because I'll look in this camera. Dr. Kettler, you've been the only administrator in decades to refer to that word, accountability. I hope you continue to do so and hold this administration accountable and move this district forward. Thank you for the privilege of serving as a school board member. I hope that the winds of change will one day sweep through the halls, breathing new life into the pursuit of excellence in education. Thank you, guys.
I didn't write anything down, so I don't have anything to read from, but I do want to say that when I took on this challenge and was asked to step up and come forward and help the district, I looked at my family and I thought to myself, do I want to put myself out there again? I've done this before, done this lots of times in different roles and different times. And it isn't an easy thing to be in the public eye. And it isn't an easy thing to sit up here and make decisions that affect everybody. And in this case, kids. We're talking about our children. I come in this district, in this room, and I sit in this chair, and I come from a long line of family that has worked for this district, from bus drivers to cooks to teachers to secretary, whatever roles that all my family has had. And I never gave any thought to the work you guys do here. It's like blew my mind. I know I took it for granted. I did. I worked in my world and I paid attention to my world and I didn't really worry about what was going on in this world. I've since learned better and I know more, and I am just at awe at this staff, at these teachers, at these kids, at the ones that come forward and talk to us, let us know what's going on. And I agree, we are nowhere near being a perfect district. We've got issues, and every meeting we've addressed those issues, and we got along sometimes and we didn't other times. And the issues aren't going to go away January 1. You're going to have your whole new set of issues. And to the new board members, I wish you luck. And as they've all said here, and I agree, you've got to come forward with what's best for the kids, what's best for the staff, what's best for our district. And what we do matters. It matters. If I've learned anything, and I've learned a lot, and I'm thankful for that, I've learned that we can't take our voting rights for granted. What you do in that ballot box matters. Follow up on it. If you're sitting in the audience, we work for you. Show up. Tell us what you need. Tell us what you want. Tell us what's important to you, because otherwise your silence allows for, I don't know, us to get lazy, maybe for us not to pay attention, for us not to do what we're supposed to do if we're really good elected officials. My choosing not to run was hard. It is bittersweet to walk away. I'm going to miss so many friends that I've made here. Probably the only person who's not that upset that I didn't run is my husband, and he's here. It's a lot what we put on our families. It's a lot what I take home in this role and in all the roles. So thank you for tolerating my wild ideas, because I have them just like everybody else does. But I know I've left the district better when I found it. And I know that the people moving forward are going to do the same thing. And I think the best decision we made was our superintendent. And I'll stand by that 110%. If we give him a chance, we will see changes in this district, good, positive changes in our classroom and in our staff in leadership. So please give him that chance, give him the opportunity to show you what he's capable of. And thank you for letting me sit up here with you, and good luck to all of you. Thanks.
We're going to give you a plaque, and then we are going to take a picture and take a short break and have some cake.
We're going to eat cake.
Have some cake.
People have to leave. Students have to go to bed. You got other stuff to do. You can do that. We have a meeting and we're continuing, but let's take a break. It's up to you. Okay. All right, thank you. I thought it might clear the room a little bit after we got started, but we still got lots of work to
They
do.
were all here for my speech,
Yeah,
probably.
they were. Okay, call the meeting back to order. It is 8:13, and I believe we are on item number 12. This is the presentation and the adoption of the 2024-25 student calendar. Mrs. Chavez, go ahead, and I'll turn it over to you for introductions.
I would like to introduce Ms. Jessica Montaño, our interim chief academic officer, to present on our student calendar for the 2024-2025 school year.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the Los Lunas School Board. This evening, we are going to present to you the recommendation for the 24-25 school year calendar. First, I want to give a little shout out to Elena Trodden, who unfortunately is out sick today, as most of my department is. She's our Director of Learning Innovations, and she stepped in to complete this process during our department's transition. So she was able to facilitate, manage, and collect data, and also put together the PowerPoint that we're going to be using for the presentation this evening. I also want to say a big thank you to the committee members for giving up their time, sharing their ideas, giving us input, and sticking with us through the process. I do have a couple of brave members of our committee that are going to help to present the calendar and the process that we used in order to get to the calendar recommendation. So those members that are willing to come and help me and have been prepared to do this, I ask you to join me up here. I'm going to first hand it over to Miss Shelley Fleischer from Ann Parish Elementary. So she's the third grade teacher, and she's going to go ahead and introduce some of the committee members for us. Shelley?
Sherry.
Sherry.
It's okay. Hi, my name is Sherry Fleischer. I'm a third grade teacher at Ann Parish Elementary, and I was a part of a committee of about 20 individuals from our district, ranging from administrators, NEA representatives, community members, teachers, family members, certified and classified employees. Part of our committee included Dr. Deborah Elder, Jessica Montaño, Marianne Chavez, Michaela Coughlin, Monica Rivera, Suzanne Chavez, Julie Dutchover, Carla Dow, Adam Hadlin, Justin Talley, Anita Torres, Catherine Campbell, Mark Garcia from Transportation, Dr. Nimra Marcus, Veronica Montero, Nicole Barca, Candace McCallan, Kathy House, Nancy York, Albert Aragon, and myself.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Ms. Chavez. I'm going to go over the process overview of how we came about with our committee and with the steps that we followed. We had our first meeting, and during that meeting, we reviewed the current calendar. We reviewed identified elements to keep and to go over, and we identified possible changes that could come about for the upcoming calendar for the school year. We took a break for about a week or was it about a month? About a month. And then we came back together again and we had a second meeting. During that second meeting, we came, discussed, talked about what we learned during our break. We compared samples calendars that we came up with. And then we finalized two options at the end of that second meeting. Once we came to a conclusion of that, we created and administered a survey, and the presentation of the results went out to the public vote. Once that public vote came in, we moved it on, and one of the other team members will come up, but the next one are the two calendar options that were identified. We have option A and option B. They are slightly different in certain manners, and depending on who is looking at option A and who's looking at option B will make the big difference. In those, the students will start in August. There's professional development days that moved from Wednesdays to Mondays. And we also have continued to align the spring break with UNM.
That's yours.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Ms. Chavez. The key differences found between option A and option B of the calendar and option A, the school year started out with four professional development days in July for teachers and staff. Then there would be 2 professional development days at the beginning of January prior to students returning from winter break. And students and teachers would finish school prior to Memorial Day. However, with option B, we see 3 professional development days in July, a longer fall break, a full week off for Thanksgiving, and then with the school year ending with students and teachers actually finishing the week after Memorial Day. As part of the community survey, it was open from December 1st to December 11th. It was shared on the Los Lunas Schools website, social media, and also through the Remind app. There were 1,592 total votes from the community.
Looking at our role groups, there were several different role groups that were identified that participated in the survey that made up a little bit close to 1,600 votes. We had everywhere from students to teachers, Los Lunas Schools employees that were not classroom teachers, parents and Los Lunas School employees and community members. Our largest group was, of course, our parents that participated in the voting.
And the results are that option B received the most amount of votes. We're looking at 54.5% of our votes. And so once again, if we want to look back at what option B is, it is going to be where we have 3 professional development days at the beginning of the year. We will have a longer fall break and Thanksgiving break, and then we will have to return after Memorial Day. So at this point, I will stand for any questions or comments.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
On your chart here, it's 49.9% parent. What did the parents actually choose?
So this vote is actually a collection of all of those voters. And so I can't really say that all of them voted for option B, but if a majority of voters were parents, and then the option B was what won.
Gentlemen, questions?
I have a couple of comments. So as I mentioned earlier, they're actually talking about this in Santa Fe, about the educational days and what that's going to look like. And I'm concerned that something may happen to where they're going to come in here and tell us exactly what it is we're doing. I'm not saying that you should wait until that day happens, but what I am saying is this is a huge decision that I think I would like to see on the next agenda for the new board to discuss. It's very important, I think, that this is a substantial topic and is very concerning to parents, staff, and students. And I know we had the election and I know we had the polls, and I'm not sure about the breakdown of those individual polls about who voted yes and who voted no. But I think it's something that needs to be discussed, and I'm not kicking the can down the road. I'm giving the opportunity for the new board to be involved in the calendar and to not necessarily have a wait and see attitude, but I meant it is a couple of weeks before the next meeting and something may happen between now and then. So I think it's a very important decision. I think it's a decision that we should wait till the next board. So those are my comments, and I would actually like to make a motion that we table it until that January 9th meeting.
Before I consider motions, can I ask a couple of questions first? Is there anything that's being presented at the legislature through PED that is going to change this? I mean, we're already at 181 days. So there's nothing that can come out of this session or these meetings in Santa Fe that would change our calendar, correct?
So I do know that Board Member Smith is correct that it is a hot topic in Santa Fe right now. I do not know what specific legislation is out there that would affect these hours that were mandated for. But I don't know if maybe Ms. Chavez has more information on that.
Madam President, members of the board. So currently at this time, what happened yesterday was a hearing with the Public Education Department. And I believe the biggest part of the discussion was the 4-day week versus a 5-day week. So at this time, this would not impact us currently with what the legislative mandate is based on House Bill, I believe it was 130 from last year.
Yes, House Bill 130.
That's currently what's in effect.
Increasing the days. That's an issue. I understand the 4 and 5 day. There was a special one important that. But Brian's question was increasing the days. Where were they at that discussion?
So that was part of, Mr. Hudon, that was part of the discussion yesterday, and that would impact those 4-day work weeks going up to 180 days for school days.
So they increasing it to how many days?
180 days for those school districts that go 4 days a week.
Okay, so a district like ours goes 5 days a week. What are they focusing on?
We would still have to meet the instructional requirements for the hours.
Yes, I missed that.
So I can clarify, Mr. Hudon, my point in this is we don't know. They're going to decide. I mean, you're talking about people that are going to school 150 some odd days on a 4-day work week and 180 days on a 5-day work week, and PED stuck in the middle, and they may come up with something that's somewhere in between. They may say, okay, let's call it 175. I don't know.
And they
I don't know what they're gonna
legislature
do.
session coming up now, this winter, next couple of weeks. They get a bill passed, to increase the days and move them around and mandate on us. And it becomes law July the 1st.
So, Mr. Hudon, just one comment on that. We do have to meet the instructional hours based on what the legislatures passed last year with House Bill 130. What they are looking at currently is that the Public Education Department would make the decision, not the legislatures. And so that was a hot topic at the hearing yesterday. So it would come from PED, not necessarily our representatives and senators.
But that would be with the 181 days that we're already at, wouldn't affect that. It doesn't change that.
That's how I understand
Now,
it.
it could in the 25-26 calendar, if they wanted to increase hours, then we would be a district that it affects. Or if they choose to reduce the hours, whether it's a legislature or PED, then it would affect us. But that would be done in a yearly calendar again, the year after.
Madam President, that's how I understand.
Okay.
Madam President.
Yes.
Members of the board, Ms. Chavez, I was actually at the hearing yesterday in Santa Fe on the new proposed regulation. It is at this moment a proposed regulation. It is not the law. It would apply beginning in the 24-25 school year. And the predominant change that would occur would be for moving all school districts that have a 4-year calendar to a 4-day school week to a 5-day school week. That was the predominant change in the legislation. The number of hours of instructional hours would not change under the new proposed regulation. To Member Hudon's point about what the legislature could do, this is a short session, so it's budget only. It is very, very unlikely that the legislature would take up any additional action with regard to the school calendar.
I'd like to just ask to Ms. Montaño, so this committee was selected when, the calendar committee? I think it was selected in the summer, spring?
No, it was selected in early fall.
Early fall, and you've met 3 times, and this is what you guys came up with.
Yes.
And when the calendar was presented for last year, if I recall correctly, there was a recommendation by that committee. So I guess where I sit on this is they've already looked at this. They've done their surveys. You've talked to your people, and to have the parents come in at 40, what was it, 50, whatever percent?
49.
I think that's a good number of families that had an opportunity to look at the calendar. So I just don't see that anything's going to affect us. Where we're at with our hours of instruction, where we're at with the recommendation from the committees, where we're at from the parents that commented on what the calendar is, it's not going to affect us. Now, is there changes that could come from PED that could affect us in 25-26? Maybe, but it doesn't affect our calendar for next year. So, that's my input on that. And Mr. Bennett, was there anything you wanted to say? I skipped over.
We're already. Right?
Correct.
Really not changing this calendar to additional hours. It's just a matter of putting around the professional development day, start time and break.
Correct. We've been at these same hours for the last couple of years. The only thing that has changed is the 10 professional development days, which needs to be embedded, which does create a little bit longer school year. The actual instructional days that our students are learning days and learning hours hasn't changed.
Development day is Monday. That's just virtual for the kids, right? They're not actually in the classroom, or there is actually in a classroom.
No, so on those professional development days, those are days that are off for students, and it will just be staff and teachers on those days. Yeah. And they aren't counted as school days, they're not counted as student days. So we are just having professional development for staff, but they do need to be embedded in our school year.
Yeah. So, the spring breaks aligned with UNM. UNMVC or main campus?
It is
They're
UNM.
different.
Sometimes they are, we try to align it with UNMVC. I believe this last year, it was the same. Mhm.
Is it the same?
I do not have any idea. And I will speak to why we choose UNMVC because we have so many students that are dual credit students with VC.
So you're giving us two options. How many options were there before you whittled it down to two?
So during the process, there were probably more than a dozen. As we go through the process and you talk about, I mean, the discussion on professional development days being Monday or Wednesday, you know, that took several minutes or maybe even an hour to discuss. That changes the options. How long do we want Thanksgiving break? That changes the option. So when we go through all the different options that we have within the constraints that we're given, there are several different ideas that came across the board.
Okay. So these, that's in our little pamphlet here, I can't read when the days are.
Yeah, it's small.
Full page on those so you could see. I know one thing is last year we had the controversial all learner days,
Correct.
which we don't have anymore.
Right.
And that's part of why you're having to add professional development.
Yeah, and so basically all learner days have been moved to just professional development days. We were able to last year count all learner days as a student day and a professional day, and then that has been taken away from us.
So you say on option B, the students and teachers finish after Memorial Day. Exactly how far after Memorial Day?
I might have to get my bifocals out too.
Can you zoom in on the calendar? B, it looks like it's the one we're talking about.
Is it 4 days? Yes, 4 days.
So the entire week after
Yes,
Tuesday.
Oh, the Monday and then it'd be the Tuesday.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Okay, so hold on. If you're gonna talk, you need to be at the podium. And I think it's the committee that's talking because we have to hear from them because of the committee report. So I appreciate your information, but I think it has to come from you guys. So
Yes. So yes, it is Tuesday through Friday after Memorial Day.
For me, that's a bridge too far past Memorial Day. The other thing is option B includes a full week of Thanksgiving, which I think makes sense because otherwise you have 3 days there.
and that's probably why they wanted to go after Memorial Day, right? Because they wanted the full Thanksgiving week.
So apparently on option B, you couldn't swing that. for
Correct.
Thanksgiving week.
We would have to take the days from somewhere.
Mr. Vickers, I'd also like to add that next year we do have to take off for election day. So that is new. So that does impact us because that is now on law.
Correct.
So that is another area we have to work around because that is a requirement.
So, and like I say, I can't read the calendar. So for instance, on option A, when's the first day for students?
First day is August 1st on both calendars.
But option A, it ends the Friday before Memorial Day.
Correct. And those days are made up by a shorter Thanksgiving. Fall break is only one day.
Fall break is when?
It's
In October?
Yes. October.
So
Indigenous People Day.
weekend.
Yes. Yeah, it'll be a 4-day weekend in option B. Option A is a 3-day weekend with that Monday off for Indigenous Peoples Day. So in option B, we're able to have Friday and Monday off.
I'm not thrilled with either point personally, but so I'm sort of leaning toward Mr. Smith's recommendation. We look at this in more detail. And this, we've just got this tonight and we can't read the dates on it. So, yeah.
Well, we got it in our packet, but yeah, saying that,
Well, Bill.
yeah. Okay, Mr. Hedon, go ahead.
I'm just,
You don't have anything? Oh, okay.
we don't have a motion, right?
No, there's not been a motion yet. There was some talk about it. So, okay, I just know that our committee has worked hard and they've put in a lot of time and effort into this and recommendations by the committee are basically what we'd like to see encouraged, right? I agree. I think after Memorial Day is tough. Why would they want to come back after Memorial Day was my first thought. But when I heard they got some extra time off at Thanksgiving, I understood. Okay, well, if the teachers and parents are willing to say, I'll come back for 3 more days or 4 more days after, just so I can have that Thanksgiving break. Well, then they know they answered the survey. They gave their input. So I just, but whatever the motions are that the board wants to do, I'll pick those motions now.
Madam President, Mary Ann Chavez is our president of NEA Los Lunas, and she actually has asked to say a few words.
Okay.
She was on the committee.
Go ahead.
Madam President, board members, and Ms. Chavez, with due respect, we have worked really hard on the calendar committee. I've been on the calendar committee almost my whole 25 years of being in the district. And it is a tough job to sit in there and go over days and come up with ideas and options. When we come up with a calendar, it doesn't affect lots of different areas. Professional development days. We have to see what days are they going to come? What days are we going to pick so that we can make sure that we have 100% accountability from our staff members to come in? Because we don't want them to take off or use a sick day, because we want them to learn while we're there. We have so much to offer to our staff members so that they can take back to the classroom. We also have to look at the calendar to come up with parent-teacher conference days. We have to look at the calendar to come up with our collective bargaining dates. We have if this is held back, then it's going to hold us back on when we can start bargaining, when we can start looking at all the other options that we have to look at for the calendar and for collective bargaining. So it's not going to just trickle down to these days are coming back after a certain point or starting at a certain point. Parents, community members, teachers, staff knew they were looking at the calendar. They knew that some days had more days, some days didn't have days. And we're right there with you where they're not good options, but these are options that have been picked. And these are options that we have to look at so that we can continue and then look forward and get ready for the following school year.
Ms. Garcia?
Yeah.
So I didn't mean to, nor would I ever imply that the committee didn't work hard. I'm absolutely confident that you did, and I appreciate all the work you did. When does the actual CBA negotiation start?
Last year, we came up as a committee to at least start looking at the dates by the beginning of February. So looking at that, we have our calendar to look at, and then looking at what legislature PED has to say so that we can incorporate.
Okay, and again, I never meant to imply that the committee didn't work hard. I know that you guys did. Part of the other reason is as an outgoing board member, I won't be here to answer those questions. I won't be here to answer the questions of the people that say, why did you select A or why did you select B? And I was concerned with the number of people that actually participated in the survey. And I know we don't usually get a lot of people. We don't usually get a lot. So that's probably a high number for a calendar, but I just feel that as an outgoing board member, this is a very, very important decision that's going to have some answers to it.
Madam President, members of the board, if I could just add a few words about the calendar. In the past few years, we made a decision on the calendar in the spring semester, which then impacts our ability to plan for the coming school year. We have many staff members who are anxious to start deciding what they're going to do for the summer. We made a decision last year on the calendar that was probably later on in the school year, and many of our staff members had already planned their summer vacations. And so we had a high number of staff members who were absent the first days back. So that was a challenge to plan staff development. We also would like to present a calendar to our community as soon as possible. With all due respect, I understand the position that everybody's in, but families are starting to plan for their summer vacations. And the first thing they look at is our calendar. We like to start our bargaining. It is in our collective bargaining agreement to start in early February. That is something that we've all agreed to do. And one big obstacle last year was deciding on our calendar because that does directly impact salary schedules. So our goal is always to have our bargaining done by the end of the school year. Some years that hasn't happened, and that's led us into the summer months, which then impacts everybody's summer schedules and coming into the, administrators with our schedules, as well as our staff who are not on contract, they have to go up their summer days to come in and bargain. So there's a lot that does go into the calendar. I wasn't part of the calendar committee the last few years, but I've been part of it for many years as part of as an employee in the school district, and it is a very hard decision to make. And I know that there's some years that we're thrilled with the calendar. There's other years that we're not so thrilled with it. But I think looking at some of the requirements that we have to follow with the new requirement of election day, that does take a day out that we not necessarily planned for. So I just wanted to give that information as well.
Ms. Garcia, so just one more question. Somebody mentioned it. I don't know who did. Maybe you did. Somebody can answer it. So what assurance do we have that no matter what they're doing up north, it's not going to affect our calendar for next year? This one of these two options will be our calendar regardless of this vote.
So on my part, and then Ms. Montano, with being NEA union for New Mexico, we had a meeting before the hearing happened. And I did ask specific questions about how is it going to impact Las Lunas? How is it going to impact my district? Because we are at 181 teaching days plus the 10 days, 191 days for our district. They said that this upcoming calendar, it's not going to impact because they're looking only at the districts that have the 4 days. They're trying to make them into the 5 to meet those hours.
Thank you. Go ahead.
No,
Madam President, I think it's only right to have a calendar committee. That's a proposal. There obviously can't be no changes to days coming from whomever up there. A difference is the start time is going to be the same. Other than getting out of end of school is going to be different. Educational time is still going to be, actual learning time is going to be the same. And I know it's required for the professional development because of the union. So I think we've got two options. I think it's our duty to select one.
So, Ms. Garcia, I'd like to hear what Ms. Montano was going to tell us.
No, I'm just going to say she's exactly right. And that's my understanding. It is about the 4-day week versus the 5-day. And hopefully no other changes come our way. I can't promise Santa Fe will do anything.
That is true.
Go ahead.
Does, Ms. Chavez, do we know what Dr. Keller's recommendation is?
I did not have an opportunity to speak to him today about that, Mr.
I
Vickers.
should say that in my conversation with Dr. Kettler, I was asked him specifically if as superintendent, he was willing to make a recommendation to make this day or decision easier. And he said he was recommending what the committee recommended, that they've done the due diligence, that they have considered every day off that everybody has had to have, and the vacations that came into play. And his recommendation was going to be that we follow the committee's recommendation. So of course, he's not here and you're having to take my word for it, but that is the discussion him and I had.
And so they would be recommending option B based on the voting.
So I guess.
Correct.
Tanya, is that your?
It is option B, and that's based off of the voting.
So more questions, or I'll stand for a motion.
For the education, I mean, the student calendars.
I have a motion to accept the calendar by Mr. Bennett. Any second? I'll second Mr. Bennett's motion. Any other discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
members of the committee, I thank you guys for the hard work you put in. Not once did we imply that anything was negative, okay? We've had these packets available since, I think, Thursday night. So we had all day Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday to view these. So we'd have had a problem with the fonts, I would have brought that to you, or I would have put my glasses on. So please don't blanket all of us on that one, okay? Thank you for your hard work, guys.
Not hearing any other discussion, I'm going to call for the vote to adopt the calendar as presented, recommending option B. Mr. Hito.
I hate to vote yes on this just because I'm not going to be here in a couple of weeks to answer questions to the community. I respect Dr. Kettner's recommendation. I respect you guys for that. I really want to support you on this, but believe me, I can't support it just because I can't answer the questions to the community. Sorry, but I really want to go with it, so I have to say no.
Mr. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Vickers,
No.
Mr. Smith,
No.
and I vote yes. So the resolution or the presentation of the calendar is not accepted tonight and will be tabled until the next meeting whenever the agenda comes before the court. It's not a motion to table, it just dies for,
Madam,
unless I get a motion to table it.
Madam
Yes, go ahead.
President,
Yes,
so that was a motion that they made to approve it.
right?
Okay, so right now I'd like to make a motion to table this issue for the next meeting.
Okay,
Can we do that since we voted?
I think we can.
They can vote to untable it.
Yeah, they would have to vote on table it at the next meeting.
Madam President, members of the board, Ms. Chavez, there is no need to make a motion to table. You make a motion to table when you're not going to take any action. There was a motion, the motion died for lack of a vote. There can either be a new motion or no other action taken. And then it is up to whoever creates the next agenda to decide to put it on the agenda and when they put it on the agenda.
All right, so it dies.
Is it acceptable to make a motion to accept option A?
Madam President, members of the board, yes, it is acceptable to make a different motion.
Yes.
So I'd like to make that.
So I have a motion on the floor by Mr. Vickers that that we accept the presentation and the adoption, but choosing option A. Do I get a second to that? I'll second it for discussion. Any more conversation? Okay, so let's call for the vote. Mr. Hidon.
No.
Mr. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Vickers,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
No.
then I'll vote yes. Looks like you're going with option A. All right. That takes us to item 13, which was tabled to the next meeting. And now we're on item number 14, which is the approval to amend the policy section K School community relations. This item was discussed at the November 14th meeting, a special meeting, and was removed from the agenda at that time. I'm going to turn this over to Mrs. Chavez if she wants to give us a little bit of information on item K, or do we want to turn it over to council? All right,
I'm
council.
going to turn over to council.
We'll turn it over to council.
Good afternoon, Madam President, members of the board, Ms. Chavez. This section K has been before the board once before. You've had an opportunity to review it. I'm just going to point out a few of the changes that would be before you tonight that would not have been before you at the prior hearing. No changes on the first few pages. You will note that you're missing K 1000, but I believe it is attached separately. And if you don't have it, I have extra copies to present to you, and I can tell you what they have. So I'm not sure if you have a K 1000 in your packet. If you don't, please let me know and I'll hand it out. No? Okay.
Yeah, everybody should have it.
Okay, thank you. So K,
Oh, okay.
Everybody find it?
yeah. And K 1000 is a policy that Dr. Kettler and I had gone back and forth on. This particular policy is regard to the public's right to know. It's basically the IPRA portion of this board policy. The changes that you will find are on the second page primarily. Everything on the first page, I believe, was there the first time that you saw this policy come before you. The real changes are on the second page, and the biggest change is that the cost would go up from 30 cents per page to $1 per printed page. And it also added some additional provisions for the download and transmission of electronic files, which is the way that inspection of public records are primarily done nowadays by public entities, including Las Lunas Public Schools. There is a provision for actual cost that is added in. That actual cost language that you see there in blue is exactly word for word from the Inspection of Public Records Act that allows for those actual reasonable costs to be assessed. Other changes in the K section. You can flip through. I'm happy to answer any questions. I know you've had all of these as well. For example, K 1250, we're just changing videotaping to videography because most people are just going to pull out their phones and record something instead of a camcorder, which no longer makes any sense to be in your policy. So we just updated some of that and put the authority with the superintendent to make those kinds of decisions. For 1350, regarding public concerns and complaints to be in compliance with House Bill 212, we removed the board from that as well. And the same is true with policy K 1500. I'm flipping through this because there was one portion that the board specifically asked me to amend. And it was with regard to public statements. So give me just a second as I find that for you so I can draw your attention to that. Oh, forgive me. It's policy K 1200. In this particular instance, the board had reviewed this policy and it had requested additional language be added so that board members would be allowed to speak with the press separate and apart from the superintendent. So the additional language in blue has been added. It does have provisos so that the individual board members can speak to the press in their individual capacity. But when it comes to the official district response, that would still come from the superintendent's office. I believe that is what you had requested that we added, and so we've put in that additional provision. The last thing that I would like to draw your attention to is policy K 2600. Again, I don't know if you have it in front of you. The superintendent and I have been sharing emails back and forth. This is with regard to booster organizations. And I know that the superintendent was trying to figure out how to make the requirements of complying with Title IX applicable under K 2600. If you don't have it, I have extra copies here. I can see you guys are flipping through. Do you need a copy?
That should be part of
Should
the
be,
record as well.
okay. And I know that the superintendent had, yeah, separate sheet at the back. And this is a separate sheet because I sent it in today. So to Karen's credit, she's very fast and gets it into your packet very quickly. This provision is just changing the requirements as it relates to Title IX because the regulations under Title IX require that the board and the district as a whole take into consideration the funds that come in from booster clubs. So for example, if you have a football booster club that brings in an extra $20,000, then the district has to account for that as it relates to its equitable distribution of funds across all of its sports, male and female schools, and all other activities. It's a requirement under Title IX. It's been a requirement under Title IX for years. It turns out that that Los Lunas Public Schools has a very good system for administering that. We could ask our chief financial officer. I'm sure that Dr. Kettler met with her because he told me that he had met with her. There's some provisions already in place to ensure equitable distribution. And so the only other thing that got added here was that if for some reason the football booster club brought in $100,000 and there wasn't an extra $100,000 somewhere in the budget, that then it would become the board's duty to make sure that the budget is addressed accordingly to ensure equitable distribution across schools and men's and women's sports and activities. So that's the other major change in this section. And if there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Yes, please.
So we've gone over this section K a few times already.
Correct.
And I don't see any more questions, any more surprise questions. But this time, I would like to make a motion to approve section K.
I got a motion by Mr. Hiron and a second by Mr. Bennett that we accept amend policy section K as presented by council, correct? Any other discussion on this? The only other thing, gentlemen, I probably want to add just for the record is that, of course, parents were allowed to comment on this. Staff had commented on this. There had been meetings with Mr. Kettler and superintendent on this changes. So I think the final amendments came from council when he and the board had asked for clarification on some matters. So I am comfortable that the parents and the community had an opportunity to also comment on this. So with that having been said, we've got a motion and a second. Yes. The second was by Mr. Bennett. Any other discussion on policy K? I'll call for the vote. Mr. Hiron?
Yes.
Mr. Bennett?
Yeah.
Mr. Vickers?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So policy K is approved. I believe we have completed our policy manual as we attempted at the beginning of this summer, right? We started this in the summer. We got them all done. Yay, you have policies. This was a big undertaking and I am so proud of us gentlemen that we got this done. And thank you very much for your hard work and your dedication to make sure that we could give our new board members a policy book that now they can amend as needed. But at least they have something down to work with.
couple of weeks ago, right before we addressed this one, I thank the board members, I thank everybody involved in this. That you got this addressed because some of these policies hadn't been revised since 2007.
This is a big deal. Mhm.
I mean, these, how many superintendents we got to see come and go? Some of them want to come back. Some of them wanted to come back and work on these policies. But we also set out goals for our superintendent. This wasn't one of his goals and he worked his butt off. So that's the reason, that's one person that we really need to thank because he made this thing happen before we got to leave this board.
Yes.
So thank you, Dr. Kettler.
Thank you, and council. All right, so, I'm not done, right? We still have a job to do. Let's see, what else are we at? Okay, so that takes us to the agenda because we've already done all of the consent items. So announcement of meetings. All right, this brings us to the announcement of meetings as allowed by the Open Meetings Act and the District Open Meetings Resolution. On occasion, a quorum of the board members attend the same functions, including those held at school sites at district level, as well as sports functions and community activities. Board members will refrain from discussing and or acting on behalf of Los Lunas School Board of Education issues in those settings. In addition, only official meetings are published, and if other meetings are scheduled, they will be announced in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. With that being said, the following meetings are scheduled. On January 9th, there will be a swearing-in ceremony here at the Central Office Boardroom at 6:00 p.m. And this would be for the incoming board members for Dr. Michelle Ozowski, Monica Otero, and Justin Talley. This will be performed by the Honorable Avilio Chavez and the Honorable Ellen Smith. On January 9th, there will also be a special board meeting here at the Central Office Boardroom at 6:15. This is for board reorganization and limited action items. On January 16th, the superintendent and the board will go into a retreat at Isleta Resort at 8:30 in the morning till 3:15 in the afternoon. This will happen at 11,000 Broadway Boulevard Southeast in Albuquerque. A quorum will be in attendance. On January 16th, the Finance Committee will meet at 4:00 p.m. And on January the 23rd is the next regular board meeting here at the Central Office Boardroom at 6:00 p.m. That's going to lead us to the adjournment of the meeting. And before I call for that adjournment, I would ask that all board members double check that they don't have to sign anything because with the consent items, there was quite a bit of items. So please don't leave if there's something to sign, especially if you're not going to be around in the next couple of weeks due to the holidays. With that having been said, I will stand for a motion to adjourn the meeting. I got a motion by Mr. Bennett. Do I get a second?
Second.
A second by Mr. Vickers. I'll call for the vote. Unless there's discussion, Mr. Hedon,
Yes.
Mr. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Vickers,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
and I too vote yes, meeting adjourned. It is now 9:00. Thank you.